Welcome to Palace Insider, where royal whispers turn into real stories. What started as a tense night with the Emir of Qatar suddenly flipped when Princess Catherine made a move that no one saw coming. The Grand Hall of Buckingham Palace shimmered with gold plates, glowing chandeliers, and silver cutlery sparkling like stars. It was pure royal luxury, yet behind that shine, tension quietly brewed. The special guest, Sheikh Tamim Hamad Alani, the Emir of Qatar, stood tall at 45, known for his calm but commanding presence. Just days before, he had spoken at the United Nations, accusing Israel of violence in Gaza, words that echoed worldwide and shadowed his visit to London. For King Charles, this dinner wasn't just about fine dining and speeches, it was political chess. Britain and Qatar shared deep ties in trade and energy, and Qatar's wealth fund owned major pieces of London, from iconic stores to skyscrapers. Keeping the Emir pleased meant keeping powerful doors open. Then entered Princess Catherine, glowing in an ivory gown and a diamond tiara once worn by the late Queen. With her trademark grace and quiet confidence, she became the unexpected light in a room heavy with tension. Since Princess Catherine returned to royal duties after completing her cancer treatment, every appearance she made felt powerful, a symbol of strength and hope that inspired millions. That evening began just as expected. Polite chatter, gentle laughter, the soft clinking of glasses, and the faint hum of orchestra music filling the grand hall. But as guests settled for dinner, something felt off. The Emir's expression hardened when he noticed his seat, placed several chairs away from King Charles beside ministers instead. To most, it might have seemed minor, but in royal diplomacy, that's no small thing. His aide leaned in, whispering with concern, while sharp-eyed guests began sensing the tension spreading through the table like a chill. Princess Catherine noticed it instantly. She had a quiet gift, the kind that spotted unease before anyone else did. From anxious schoolchildren to nervous hospital visitors, she always knew when someone felt out of place. Now her gaze told her everything. The Emir wasn't happy, and the evening could spiral fast if someone didn't act soon. She stayed calm, biding her moment as the first toast was raised and crystal glasses shimmered in the golden light. With a graceful tilt of her head, she lifted her glass directly to him. Such a tiny gesture, yet it spoke louder than any speech. The Emir paused, surprised, then returned the smile and raised his glass back at her. The tension in his face softened, and those nearby instantly noticed the shift. His aide relaxed, the tight energy at that end of the table slowly melting away. Catherine took her chance, chatting with him whenever she could, skipping politics and business talk. Instead, she asked about his family, showing real curiosity and care. For the first time that night, the Emir opened up, sharing stories about his children, even laughing quietly. The entire mood of the banquet lifted like a sigh of relief. British officials exchanged subtle smiles, realizing Catherine had just saved the night, not with speeches or power plays, but with pure human grace. Everyone knew. It was Princess Catherine's quiet charm that turned the night around. But what she did next had the entire room holding its breath. The first half of the banquet might have been saved, but Catherine wasn't done. In royal circles, every glance and gesture carries hidden meaning, and she knew the evening's peace could vanish with one wrong move. The Emir was smiling, yes, but that earlier tension still lingered like a shadow. To keep the balance, Catherine had to show him more than politeness. She needed to prove his place and voice were respected at the highest level. Soon, the speeches began. King Charles spoke warmly about the deep friendship between Britain and Qatar, highlighting energy ties, investments in schools and hospitals, and the strong bond between both royal families. Applause filled the hall as he lifted his glass high. Then, when it was the Emir's turn to speak, the chatter stopped cold. His voice, steady and proud, carried through the hall, his Qatari accent adding a powerful edge to every word. The Emir began his speech with polite thanks to King Charles, but then his tone shifted. He spoke boldly about fairness in global politics, calling for peace in Gaza and reminding the world's leaders of their duty to protect families trapped in conflict. His words hit hard, steady, and confident, showing exactly why he's known as a leader who never dodges the truth. And he spoke, showing pure respect and attention. It seemed small, yet for a man who valued being heard, that moment meant everything. When the applause came, it was polite but cautious. Some clapped out of respect, others out of formality. Catherine, sensing the awkward pause that hung in the air, leaned slightly toward the Emir. With a gentle smile, she said, "Your words remind us all that families, no matter where they live, deserve safety and peace." The Emir blinked, surprised, then smiled with genuine warmth. Her response didn't downplay his message. It connected it to something universal, something human, family. And by doing that, Catherine struck the perfect note, touching both his heart and the entire room at once. As dinner moved on with lighter dishes, the tension from the Emir's speech slowly faded away. Later, when the music paused, Catherine gracefully joined a smaller circle around him. Instead of slipping back into dry talk about trade or politics, she switched the tone completely, asking about Qatar's schools. She mentioned his country's major investments in education and sports, praising them sincerely. "It gives so much hope to young people," she said with a warm smile. The Emir's face lit up instantly. Education was his pride. He spoke passionately about scholarships, new projects, and young athletes preparing for global competitions. Catherine listened closely, asking thoughtful questions that showed she'd done her research. Nothing about her interest felt fake. She'd clearly come prepared. Those nearby could feel the shift. Their connection was effortless, built on respect and genuine curiosity, not royal formality. As the evening rolled on, the Emir's earlier frustration melted into admiration. His tone changed. He spoke highly of the British royal family, especially of Catherine's calm grace and smart approach. The same man who once looked ready to walk out now seemed fully at ease, smiling, talking, and clearly enjoying every minute of the night. British ministers who had been bracing for a diplomatic disaster now looked visibly relieved. They whispered quietly that Princess Catherine had done what even top diplomats couldn't. She earned the Emir's respect without politics or pressure, just pure human connection. Music filled the hall again, glasses clinked, and polite laughter returned. But everyone knew the real story of the night. Catherine had turned tension into triumph. Still, the evening wasn't over. The most surprising moment was yet to come. One that would lift the Emir's praise to another level and leave the entire room stunned. The atmosphere at Buckingham Palace was now balanced but fragile, like walking on fine glass. The Emir, though calm, carried his nation's pride in every word he spoke, and Catherine understood that one wrong move could shatter it all. The service flowed flawlessly, silver trays gliding through the hall, crystal glasses sparkling under the chandeliers. Amid the grace and glitter, Catherine leaned slightly toward the Emir again, making sure he felt seen and respected. With an easy tone, she brought up his recent visit to Oxford, where he'd met Qatari students studying science and medicine. The Emir's face softened instantly. Her attention to detail and genuine interest had reached him once more. The Emir's pride showed instantly as he spoke about the Qatari students studying abroad, many funded through his own government scholarships. Catherine mentioned one student she'd read about, working on renewable energy projects tied to Britain's push for clean tech. "It's inspiring," she said warmly, "to see young people leading the way." Her tone was sincere, and it hit exactly the right note. The Emir let out a short, genuine laugh, and everyone nearby noticed the change. His shoulders loosened, his mood lighter. Catherine's approach was simple but sharp. Focus on what mattered to him, respect his efforts, and make clear connections that reflected well on Qatar. From his seat, King Charles quietly observed, his expression calm but proud. He trusted Catherine's smooth, diplomatic touch. The chat soon drifted to football, a perfect subject for a Qatari leader who had hosted the 2022 FIFA World Cup and carried deep pride in it. Catherine joined in easily, sharing that her son, Prince George, had started following football closely and had been thrilled watching England during the Euros. Her tone stayed friendly but respectful, and the Emir leaned closer with a grin, asking with playful humor, "And does he support England only?" Catherine smiled at his playful question and replied, "He tries to, but sometimes kids pick their heroes from all over. He's got his favorites." The table around them softened with quiet amusement. It was such a simple moment, yet it carried real weight. Catherine had opened a small window into her personal life, something honest and human that went beyond royal formality. And for the Emir, who valued family deeply, that gesture struck home. Even from the far end of the table, people could sense that this was where the real connection of the night was happening, between the Princess of Wales and the Emir of Qatar. Later, as talks circled back to trade, the Emir mentioned Qatar's wish for fairer treatment in energy deals, his tone calm but firm. Catherine listened closely, nodding at the right moments, never interrupting or rushing to fix the issue. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm yet steady. "Your Majesty, the United Kingdom does not take lightly the strength of its partnerships. It's not just about numbers, it's about the future we build together." The Emir paused, clearly moved. She hadn't made promises she couldn't keep, but she made him feel heard and respected. A delicate balance she managed with perfect grace by the time dessert arrived. By dessert, the entire mood had flipped. Plates of fruit and glossy tarts appeared, and the Emir was no longer the tense, restless guest he'd been at the start. Conversation flowed easily now. Laughter sprinkled between the soft hum of a string quartet filling the golden hall. The pressure that once hung over the table had melted into something far lighter. Catherine leaned back slightly, still poised and graceful, her eyes sweeping across the room. She could see the change. What might have been an awkward, even embarrassing night for the palace had turned into a masterclass in quiet diplomacy. Across the table, the Emir's aides exchanged looks of disbelief. They knew his reputation, strong-willed, unwavering. Yet here he was, smiling, laughing, and talking openly with the Princess of Wales. Of the hall. But she didn't relax just of the hall. But she didn't relax just yet. Banquets like this could turn in an instant. She stayed calm, keeping the rhythm steady, until suddenly, the Emir leaned back in his chair and said something that caught everyone off guard. The Emir's gaze locked on Catherine as soft chatter filled the grand hall. All evening, she had steered their exchange with quiet grace, and now came the truth he'd held back. Clearing his throat, he spoke low but firm. "Britain often speaks of partnership, yet sometimes I feel Qatar gives more than it receives. This is not fair." His words cut through the air, polite but powerful. The table froze. Aides shifted uncomfortably, and even King Charles watched carefully, choosing not to step in. Catherine leaned slightly forward, her voice calm but steady. "Your Majesty, I hear what you are saying. Respect must work both ways, and tonight proves your voice is valued here." The Emir studied her, intrigued. She hadn't dodged his words. She met them head-on, speaking of trust, respect, and the real connection between their nations beyond politics. Catherine spoke softly about Qatari families who'd made London their second home, students in British schools, doctors trained in British hospitals. "That's more than business," she said gently. "That's trust." The Emir's expression eased, his tone softening as he replied, "You speak with honesty, Princess. That is rare." The tension melted once again, and quiet relief spread across the table. She hadn't dodged the issue. She'd met it with calm respect. Then, guiding the talk to lighter ground, she asked about Qatar's plans for expanding its cultural reach through museums and art. The Emir's face brightened as he described his vision of Doha as a global hub for creativity. Catherine listened with real interest, mentioning her own art gallery visits with her children, a natural, personal link. The Emir chuckled warmly. "You remind me that leaders are also parents," he said, smiling, and laughter rippled through the hall. When the Emir rose to speak, the hall fell silent. Everyone remembered how tense he'd been at the start, but now his tone was completely transformed. Standing tall, he spoke not of demands or unfairness, but of respect. He praised the palace's hospitality, Britain's long history, and the warmth shown to him throughout the evening. Then, turning toward Catherine, he personally thanked her for her kindness and sincerity, a gesture that drew instant applause. King Charles nodded approvingly. but it was clear to everyone that the true credit belonged to the Princess of Wales. Guests whispered that she'd changed the night's tone with nothing but calm conversation and a genuine heart. When the Emir sat down, his mood was lighter, his aides visibly relieved. Catherine didn't seek attention. She simply smiled, poised and peaceful. Yet everyone knew she had turned tension into admiration. As the banquet wound down, plates cleared and music faded into a gentle hum, the evening felt complete. The Emir of Qatar had already surprised everyone by turning his sharp opening into words of praise. Yet it was Catherine's calm presence beside him that held the night together. When he stood to leave, he paused, turning toward her with a rare expression. Pure gratitude. "Princess," he said softly, "you reminded me tonight that respect is earned, not demanded. For that, I thank you." Catherine smiled gently, bowing her head in acknowledgement. She never sought praise, but the room had heard his words, and everyone knew something real had shifted. Then came the unexpected moment. As the Emir reached for his coat, Catherine placed a hand over her heart and extended the other in goodwill. He mirrored her gesture instantly, hand to heart, a silent exchange of respect that froze the room in awe. King Charles watched quietly, his faint smile saying it all. King Charles understood better than anyone how fragile these diplomatic moments could be. Catherine hadn't just calmed a restless guest, she'd quietly strengthened a fragile bond without a single grand gesture. As the Emir walked toward the exit, he paused once more, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "Britain has shown friendship tonight. May this spirit guide our partnership forward." His words echoed through Buckingham Palace, warm and sincere. When the doors closed behind him, even those who had worried earlier now smiled, nodding in relief. The air in the palace felt lighter, the tension gone, replaced with quiet admiration. Guests whispered praises for the princess, noting how she'd listened instead of reacting, how she'd focused on shared values instead of division. But for Catherine, it was never about recognition. She simply rejoined Prince William, who had been chatting nearby, and asked softly about their children. "George will want to know if it all went well," she said with a small laugh. That gentle comment reminded everyone, beneath the tiara and formality stood a devoted mother. In the days that followed, the world took notice. Photos of the Amir and Catherine's heartfelt exchange spread quickly, sparking headlines about how one evening of tension had turned into a story of grace, not through politics or speeches, but through simple, human connection. Reports from Doha soon echoed the shift everyone had felt in London. Local newspapers praised the Princess of Wales for showing genuine respect toward the Emir, noting how deeply it mattered for Qatar to see their leader treated with such dignity on foreign soil. To them, that moment wasn't just formality. It was pride and respect carried across borders. Diplomats took notice too. One senior Foreign Office official summed it up perfectly. "Sometimes diplomacy happens in meeting rooms with papers and signatures, but sometimes it happens in a single gesture at a dinner table." That night was one of those moments. And indeed, it was. Catherine, as always, said nothing publicly about what had happened. She simply returned to her daily work, visiting schools, supporting charities, and focusing on early childhood initiatives. But for those who had witnessed that unforgettable night, her quiet influence would never fade. She wasn't elected, she wasn't a politician, yet she represented her country with more grace and humanity than any formal speech could ever deliver. The Princess of Wales proved that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it listens. That night showed the true power of composure, empathy, and one heartfelt gesture. The guests who had entered Buckingham Palace with unease left filled with admiration. The Emir who had arrived with demands walked out with respect, and Catherine, who never sought attention, became the quiet center of history in motion. As the banquet ended under the golden glow of Buckingham Palace, one truth shined brighter than the chandeliers. Sometimes the smallest actions leave the strongest mark. What do you think of Princess Catherine's calm but powerful diplomacy? Could you have handled that tension so gracefully? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more royal deep dives, and we'll see you in the next video.